Hello there, it's Josh here from Racing the Profit. Hopefully you can hear me loud and clear. In this quick video, I'm going to run through a few stats and pointers for today's racing on Wednesday, the 7th of June. As always, I'm going to flag kind of 4 horses of potential interest that you can feel free to have a deeper dive into if you wish. As always, I'm going to try and highlight some stats and different pointers that you can feel free to note down that with any luck will be very useful, whether or not on today's cards with other horses or moving forwards, regardless of those horses I flag for you today, whether or not they fall out the back of the TV or get their heads in front. The screen you can see in front of you is within the excellent and unparalleled GG's Gold, the My Report Angles report. This particular screen you can see here, which as well as kind of doing those through the cards, which I do enjoy and have had some success with. I use the race cards and flick through kind of each race in each race meeting, and I'll kind of dive into that in a moment. But the other kind of weigh in, which I enjoy, and there's a few other reports I take a browse at as well, but it's this My Report Angles, which throws up all sorts. I normally just order by win percentage here, so if I just click and then you can flick through and kind of work your way through these different stats types. Obviously we're all kind of different in terms of what we like to approach, what we like to look at, and different stats are more appealing than some others. That depends on the kind of thing you like. It might be kind of recent trainer jockey form, which you can see there. For example, Ryan Moore, Aidan O'Brien, 8 from 14, 10 places the last 2 weeks as an example, and so on and so forth. Trainer jockey in the last year. There's some hot form data, so horse races that have worked out well, and you can go and check where that horse was in that field and whether or not that was a particularly competitive race, and they may be in a less competitive race today and therefore have a better chance, and so on and so forth. So I kind of work my way down, or did for this particular video, highlighting or pulling out a few of potential interest. Obviously there's some stats sample sizes are bigger than others, and again they're all arguably small to some degree, which is always the case, especially with trainer stats, and you can use them as a way in or make your own judgment on what to do with them in that scenario. But yeah, you can obviously work your way down. I forget, well, I'm not 100% sure if this report is free on any days. If you are a free registered member of GG's, you can get access each day for free to a different element of the excellent suite of tools. But yeah, so last night and a bit this morning, I kind of browsed at this report, looking and working my way down, using as a way in, and kind of I look at the stats that kind of have a 30% or higher win strike rate, sometimes creeping down to 28. That's just so I'm not overwhelmed. Obviously I will miss plenty of winners all the way down here, no doubt, but there's only so much time in a day, and yeah, in this game you just have to accept you're going to miss winners. So yeah, that's kind of the approach I took, and I ended up homing in on 4 horses of potential interest, and I'm going to dive over to the race cards here. Where should I start? Nottingham, that's where I'll start. The first stat I looked at, or one of those that came out, was the record of Rob Hornby around here in the last year. He, with these little report angles, this is the race card you can see in front of you, and yeah, you get these report angle little snippets here, which I really enjoy using and find very useful. Game breaker, I suppose one of those stats on the report I had a look at was Rob Hornby's record at Nottingham in the last year, 31 rides, 10 wins, 14 places. He's really got his eye in as a track which he rides very, very well. This particular horse, a game breaker for Rafe Beckett, isn't one of the four I'm going to flag, but you can obviously absorb those stats as best you please. Rafe does have first time out 2-year-old winners. These stats will be for the last, these two will be for the last 2 years. This one will be for the last year. The report angles, unless stated, are usually for the last 2 years, but as you can see here, Rob Hornby, this is stats for the last year. Rafe Beckett's first time 2-year-old stats in the last 1 year, and his record at Nottingham overall with first time out 2-year-olds. 4 from 22, 7 places. This one at the moment seems a bit unfancied at 12 to 1, but of course you're more than welcome to dive in and have a look. It's a 2-year-old race. Who knows what's going to happen? A few have experience and ran quite well. On debut, you'd expect them to take a step forward, but it was the Rob Hornby stats that I was interested in. He has 4 rides on the course today. Funny story, has been well backed, kind of 2 to 1 or so. And you can have a look at that race. I thought it might look competitive enough, but he's dropping in class, and has some good back form to his name. Ran well on his seasonal return, might run well. Abu Royale for Charlie Johnson, not a jockey, not a trainer he usually rides for, but he looks a bit weak. That's a 3-year-old only handicap, and I tend to avoid those unless doing through the cards, because they can generally be a bit head scratching. I've honed in on Bashful Boy in the 4:35. Riding for David Pipe. Rob Hornby seems to get on with this horse rather well. He's unexposed on the flat. Rob Hornby's 2 from 3 on the horse. He rode him to victory at Salisbury last time out. He's unexposed as a stayer on the flat. Last time out seemed to prove that he was pretty good on good to firm, his first try on such a sound surface. He's around 3 to 1 as I speak. I thought there was every chance he runs a big race here. He looks straightforward, he settles. What I liked from this performance, having just watched it back, was visually it looked very slowly run. He was held up out the back and yet still had the ability to run pretty much from last and collar a horse who was much more prominent and got first run on him, and I think did it fairly comfortably. You can see there he was off a official rating of 80, racing post rating of 89. I always like that as some kind of semi-decent guide as to whether the horse is still well handicapped or there could be more to come. He bolted up over 16 furlongs on the all-weather here. Fell a couple of times over hurdles. He's one of those horses you wouldn't mind owning. 6 career wins, 3 hurdle wins, 2 flat. 1 on the flat, 2 on the all-weather. Pipe seems to be getting a tune out of him, and I thought there was potentially more to come. The other final point I will say is looking at the pace maps here. Because he can be more patiently ridden, there looks to be 2 or 3 who normally like to get on with it, which will suit him even better, I think. A stronger pace last time at Salisbury, and I think it'd have been a bit more of he's won more comfortably, I think. So we will see. We'll put that to the test, but using that kind of Rob Hornby as a way in, you might want to have a look at that race and take a different view as to the opposition. Single will be dangerous if he drops his head and settles. He's got the best piece of back form to his name, possibly in this Newmarket Class 2, although that didn't really work out very well. He ran well on return at Newmarket, but pulled far too hard when last seen 11 days ago. Anyway, I thought Bashful Boy at 3 to 1 was just about okay and of some interest there. So that's the one of the 4 Rob Hornby rides which I thought was interesting. No doubt I've probably picked the wrong one, or he'll have a blank, but do with that as you please. And whatever they do, do note Rob Hornby's rides around Nottingham. It is a track in the last year in particular he seems to have got firmly to grips with. What am I going to say here as I rattle around? I forget what my way in was with this race. But I ended up, I might have actually just flicked on it and there wasn't anything in the reports at all. I'm not 100% sure. But I ended up looking at Codswallop here. I just clicked on the Instant Expert, and you'll just see why. So this is what horses have achieved within set conditions. I've changed the class here. So if I just look at class 6, flat handicaps, you can see Codswallop along the bottom here. He's £4 below his last winning mark, which was at the course, which is only win on turf. The class seems fine, good to firm, appears to be ideal, and I just thought that looked interesting, particularly the course form there. If I click on the pace map as well, on good to firm ground, kind of 6 to 9 runners, it can pay to be leading and prominent. As you can see, the stats there, 16-17% win strike rate. Being more patiently ridden isn't impossible, but it's difficult, and that is generally the case in racing. If you just focused on horses you think are going to lead or be prominent, you'll generally do fairly well over time. And as you'll see here, Codswallop, it's not impossible he leads, or will certainly be in the front two, but I'm not sure at this stage who might go past him, but he looks like he will be in the perfect spot, which he was when he won round here last year. You'll see there, 1 from 7 on the turf. He bounced into form in this 3-year-old handicap here. He was prominent and he kept on well. That was off a slightly higher mark. He's £4 lower here. The winning jockey from that day's back on, wasn't on his seasonal return. I always think that's interesting. You would like to think, has this been the plan? Course and distance winner. Ground has come good for him. Then went soft. Not sure what happened at Yarmouth. I think he's a bit, it depends what mood he's in. And the you'll see here with this kind of on Gigi's now, when you hover over, they do put the steward's reports in, or any steward kind of interrogation, for want of a better word, and you can see there actually the explanation used for why the horse bounced kind of into form, and one of the reasons there was that he enjoyed being aggressively ridden and enjoyed being ridden near the front. So that's hopefully going to be the case today. He ran at Nottingham over here, 8 furlongs, heavy ground, trip too short, ground too heavy, probably needed the run. He ran okay to around a furlong and a half out before then fading. So hopefully he may now take a big step forward here off this mark. He was around 7-8 to 1 when recording. I thought that was looked okay, and yeah, for those reasons stated, because of his course form and that mark and the pace map and everything else, I thought he looked the most interesting. There is an unexposed last time out winner in Trojan Truth. He may be behind Codswallop and have to come with more of a rattling run. The new Marwan and the Roof Car horse both ran in the same race 9 days ago and didn't run too badly. But yeah, for me, I'll stick with the course form and that kind of pace preference, and hopefully Codswallop at the prices as I move down here. Yeah, he's still kind of 7 as I just jump over to Odds Checker. He's generally kind of around 7 to 1, holding firm. Whether or not he comes in further, we'll see. I thought the new Marwan was opposable at the price. Might make me look silly, of course. Trojan Truth might run well, but yes, it was Codswallop for those reasons stated. And yeah, what was the other one I focused on? Was the other Rob Hornby horse. Yeah, Bashful Boy, still 3 to 1 around there, which I think is just about okay, just because he looks professional and unless the race comes too soon, looks sure to kind of put in a big effort. So hopefully he can back up that win. So that's 2. Where am I going to jump to now? Quickly over to the 5:37 at Ripon. Another usual quick video as I tick around to 14 minutes. What was I going to focus on here? The Richard Fahey horse was a bit weak this morning. This was one of those stats which kind of jumped up on that report. Trainer jockey at the course in the last 5 years, 5 from 11, 6 places. You could just note when Richard Fahey books David Nolan at Ripon. Nothing else needed. But there are some further stats. Richard Fahey does well with his 2-year-old's first time out at Ripon, as you can see here. Well, solid, and 4 from 25, 7 places. Other stats of interest, if I just click on the trainer, you can dig into all these stats and all these different profiles. If I just look at the course, the age, 2-year-olds at Ripon, you can see that's fairly solid. But if I jump to 5 furlongs, you will see that, and they're all in non-handicaps. They're all going to be maidens, and generally maidens and novice races. Yes, so Richard Fahey, 2-year-olds at Ripon over 5 furlongs in the last 5 years. 8 from 23, 10 places, 35% win strike rate, near enough, nearly plus 12 to starting price, which is decent enough. 2 from 8 in the last 2 years. But yeah, as a kind of 5-year record, that's pretty solid. Hopefully, in the next 5 years, he may have repeated similar stats, which would be solid enough. He also does well within that little profile when booking David Nolan, 2 from 2 with his 5 furlong 2-year-olds at the course, and 3 from 5 4 places with all 2-year-olds here when booking David Nolan. So once I started diving into those stats and the horses now, let me just have a look as I'm jumping around at Ripon back here. Yeah, he's kind of weak at 5-6 to 1. Maybe that's indicative of what they think to his chance. I'm not 100% sure, but I thought at kind of 5-6 to 1 for some kind of interest change, that might be worth a little go, simply based on those stats. But I should say the colt is out of No Nay Never, who's operating at a kind of general 20% strike rate with his flat 2-year-olds, which is decent enough. The breeding looks solid enough. The dam was handy, and as a 2-year-old, the other thing as well is the draw. The stalls are against this stand side rail. Ripon being a right-handed course means that the low numbers would be on the far side, so the high numbers against this stand side rail. He is drawn right up against the rail, so hopefully he's been well schooled from the gates, because if he can get out and grab a prominent position up this near side, that would help him. So I thought actually 5-6 to 1 looked interesting. The same ownership here with the David O'Meara horse. I did just want to flag, he's just some stats for the trainer with his 2-year-olds. He doesn't do too badly either, as you can see there. Last 5 years, bit better than the kind of last 2, but 11 from 51, solid 22% strike rate, plus 31 with his 2-year-olds around here, and in non-handicaps, as you can see there, slightly better. So yeah, and they're in the distance. So David O'Meara has 2-year-olds pop up here. You can dive into the stats. Actually, they do best after they've had a run, so on their kind of 1st to 4th starts since kind of the start of 2018. So that's Ripon, 2-year-olds, non-handicaps. He's 9 from 28, 15 places, plus 42 Betfair starting price. So that's something to watch at Ripon, and some stats you can note down if you like betting in these sorts of races. I'm ticking around to 20 minutes, so I should hurry up and finish up. But yeah, I thought that Fahey horse might be interesting. Desert Master sets a solid standard. First run on fast ground could be what he's wanted, of course, but it's had 2 goes. I'll oppose him at his short price, but if he wins, he wins, and so on and so forth. Carl Burke does okay here as well, 20% with his first time out 2-year-olds, but you have to kind of pick the right ones with him, and doesn't have a great record at Ripon with such types, although it does have the odd winner. But finally, I'm going to finish off at the 8.25 at Kempton. We're going right round the courses today. This is on paper fairly competitive. This is again, there's quite a few report angles and different stats and ways in here. I could start with Syed bin Saror, a yard in fine form, 4 from 10 in the last 14 days, so he might be a trainer to keep an eye on or use as a weigh-in. He's only got 1 runner here today under Hayley Turner, but he's got a few entered in the days ahead, so the bin Saror team are going well, so that might be a trainer just to note in the week ahead. Does well here. He can ready one after a break. A few questions there, of course. The market may or may not guide, hasn't run for quite some time, but is a course and distance winner. So maybe it's interesting that they're bringing him back here. Has been gelded as well. That's the G1 there. But the stats I kind of honed in on was Kevin Defoe's, especially as this horse is kind of around 12 to 1. The market can be a guide, so it'll be interesting if he comes in a bit or kind of loses a leg. But what do we want to highlight here? Benoit de la Sayette rides this course very, very well, as you can see here. That's worth noting. And he's got a few rides today on the card. Well, he's got 4 rides. He's got a couple, well, he's got one kind of well-fancied one. That one's a bit weak, spit spots, so-so, but a last time out winner, but in possibly a competitive race. Anyway, so Benoit rides this place very well. Whether he continues to do so now he's ridden out his claim, we shall see over the next season, but certainly, you know, nearly winning and placing 50% of your rides at any course is decent, and from a sample size of 50 plus, which is solid enough. When riding for Kevin Defoe at the course in the last year, 3 from 12, 5 places, plus 17. In the last 5 years, well, that'll be since Benoit started riding, 6 from 17, 9 places. So Kevin clearly likes to book him, I would like to think, on horses they expect to run well or want to run well. The other thing is this is a horse's first start for the yard. Trainer change in the last year. He clearly can improve some from other yards. 8 from 39, 15 places. And yeah, we've got all these stats at the click of a button, and he can ready them after a break as well. So I don't think the 244 days off will be a problem. Obviously, it will just be whether connections wish to have him ready here, or they're on a fact-finding the mission themselves. They'll hopefully have a good idea of how he's been working at home and what he's been working up against, which is why, again, the market could be some guide. He comes over from Ireland. He ran pretty well in some 3-year-old only handicaps in races which have generally worked out well, and he did bump into the odd one. He's produced some Racing Post rating figures here of a 90 and a 91, which are above his current mark of 84, which might be a positive as well. It's his first run on the all-weather. Fastnet Rocks, if I just click this kind of breeding sales data, you can see this gelding, how he's related, etc. On the all-weather, generally solid. And yeah, nothing to worry about there. It could be the reason for improvement. Of course, he's drawn in 7, which is okay. You know, this is very much a stats pick. He is unexposed. There is some okay form there. Whether 84 sums him up or not, we'll see. You'd think he will have developed over kind of the winter off. Kevin Defoe may well have improved him. He could be a better model and a better horse. And actually, having a quick glance through some of these, it did look a very kind of open race on paper. Yeah, that was him in the 8:25. I'm not quite sure where he's going to slot in on this pace map. The stalls are, will be the far side as we're looking. He's drawn in 7. There's no pace on paper here, so you may not want to be caught out of your ground if it turns into a bit of a dash. The jockeys will know this. Something may try and steal it from the front. Maybe Oisin Murphy from a wide draw go, I need to get out and across. He's switched on well enough to do that kind of thing, and so on. But yes, that's that race. I'll just check and see if the final thing I'll do is whether he's been nibbled at all. And yes, that's... he was around 14 to 1 when I started making a decision. Maybe someone's tipped him or something. It might be not be, the money might not mean anything at all. We'll see if that continues through the day. If he drifts back beyond 14 to 1 to kind of 20s or so, or 16s, then that might be not today. But with 4 places to aim at, in most bookmakers, 5 in the odd place, kind of as an each way bet, he might be interesting for all those reasons stated. But I think I've been talking for long enough, and probably about 14 minutes longer than I planned, but that's always the case with me. So with that said, yeah, hopefully I've said something interesting, and with any luck, some of those horses, those 4 mentioned, run well, but if not, do note down some of the stats I've touched on. Yeah, the Rob Hornby at Codswallop as his profile. I suspect he'll win round Nottingham again at some point. Hopefully it's today. And some of those Kevin Philippart de Foy stats, especially when booking Benoit de la Sayette, and indeed his record at Kempton as well. But yes, have a great day. Good luck with any bets. And this is Josh saying thanks for watching, and until next time, bye for now.